Hello, this is Jeff, and I am working on a series of projects on my stream, which I am titling SaaS in a Month. And I'm getting kind of the same sets of questions over and over again. Most of them are what I would call like orient me type questions and tell me what you're doing. And these projects are just large enough and complex enough that I think having like a 30-minute video that covers essentially kind of what I'm thinking, how all this works, what I'm building, is going to make this a little bit easier for people to jump into. So this is going to be on YouTube. I'm going to put a link to the video on my Twitch channel page, and I'll have a command in the chat that Nightbot will be able to respond to that will link you to this video. So if you have questions or if you ask questions in my stream about these topics, I'm going to send you to this video so that you can watch this 30-minute introduction and get some context. So here we go. SaaS in a month. So I'm going to build 4 products in 4 months. The products are manageyour.cash. That's the actual domain name. zen-appointment.com, chrono-vault.com, and booth.io. I'm going to explain some of these in more detail as we go along. So why am I doing this? I'm doing this to make money. This is what I call money-oriented programming. I'm not doing this for any other reason. That's my motivation. My freelance contracting business has been on decline for the past 2 years, and the market's changing. Things are changing, and it's just not as easy to get a toehold in that market anymore the way that you used to be able to. And some of that is due to what I call commodification through disintermediation. So a lot of these companies, big companies, and even medium and some small companies they've gone to offshoring models, they've gone to vendor management models, and it's very difficult to have direct relationships with the hiring managers or the VPs or the directors because their company policies have shifted and changed, and they no longer are allowed. It's not that they don't want to, they might want to, but they're not allowed to deal with you directly anymore. You have to go be an approved vendor, you have to go through their vendor management system. And what this does is this then turns you into a number, turns you into a cog, and you're the same as a plumber or a janitor or an electrician. You're unseen, you have no unique face anymore. So it's very difficult to sell based on value. You're typically constrained to hourly income, which is just it's just not a scalable model. And I am not in a position in my life now where I can go jet set and go to parties and take people to ball games and the bar and schmooze, which, if I did that in a significant amount of high enough quantity, I might be able to have something similar that I had, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But I just, A, I don't like doing that. I've never liked doing that sort of stuff. And B, I'm just not able to do that now. I would like a different kind of income model. I would like an income model that, I hesitate to say passive because I don't think it's going to be passive. However, again, a lot of this stuff is in the eye of the beholder. And if I spend, say, 10 hours a week managing my SaaS applications, I'm going to consider that pretty close to passive for my tastes, right? Even if I had to spend 20 hours a week on managing products that were cash flow positive and were making me some money, I would be pretty happy with that. And that, I think, scales better, right? I can build more apps, I can try more ideas, I can do lots of testing and find what works, find what gets me where I need to be, which is not, uber billions of dollars, right? I'm going to be happy with hundreds of thousands. So, and then finally, I can do this. So I am. Okay, so let's talk about elevator pitches for the products. Manage your cash. So this is a simple service, right? The idea behind Manage Your Cash is everybody has cash flow, everybody has bills, everybody has income. And sometimes, it's hard to know how much free cash you have and when you should do certain things, right? So you're going to have a calendar. You're going to be able to create an account. You're going to have a calendar. You're going to be able to set up your expenses. You're going to be able to set up your income. We're going to have a guided interview, kind of an expert systemy thing that'll all be data driven, that will ask you a ton of questions, right? Are you married? Do you have kids? Are your parents still alive? Do you have friends? Do you typically give gifts on birthdays? Right? It's going to go through a whole series of questions, and based on the answers you give, it's going to go down different kinds of trees or add trees to ask you, okay? And the idea is to help you discover all of your expenses, discover where your money goes. Do you go to Starbucks every morning? Do you go to McDonald's every morning? How much do you drive? Do you take vacations? You get the idea. And the idea is to get the broadest, most accurate picture of where your money's going proactively, not like a Mint where it just tells you what you spent in a very abstract sort of way with little credit card names and if you use cash, or you still use checks, and believe me, there are people who do, Mint and services like that aren't as effective because you have to then go back and troll through all that data and categorize it and make sense of it. This, we're going the other way. This, we're proactively asking you to tell us what you're doing the best that you can, and then after we've collected data from you over some period of time, right? The idea here is that you are going to make changes to things on the calendar as things happen, right? And then we can build a budget for you. We can help you create a budget that says you should spend this much money on gas, this much money on food, this much money on rent, so on and so forth. And that's going to be based on answers that you give, like how much would you like to save, how much free cash would you like every week, so on and so forth, right? There's not going to be any banking integration. There's not going to be any third-party integration for the user in the MVP. It's just too much scope, right? So the idea is to keep these simple, to keep these something that I can tackle in the time frame that we have. We're going to have configurable alerts so that you can say, hey, I would like to know when bills are going to be coming due, and when I'm expecting to be paid. I want to be able to verify that I got paid, that sort of stuff. If this basic implementation takes root and we have some success with it, then we'll add more functionality. We'll look at enhancing it. And again, some of this will be, user feedback, right? If users say, hey, I really would like to be able to do this, then that's what we'll prioritize and try to build, right? Okay, Zen Appointment. So Zen Appointment is going to be a scheduling and appointment reminder system. So this is going to be meant for like small professional businesses, doctors, lawyers, service techs, or like restaurants maybe, or delivery drivers, small delivery companies or route companies. There's going to be the ability to kind of white label things. So the idea is that this will provide a portal for their customers. So whoever's using our software, right, their customers will be able to go to a portal available on their account, and they'll be able to customize that to some extent to make it look like their company, their logo, their color scheme. Maybe we'll let them organize things on the screen in certain ways, so that customers can see available scheduling slots. They can schedule their own appointments. They can see appointments they have scheduled. They can change the date. So the idea is we want to be able to allow these companies to present an open scheduling service to their own customers, and at the same time, on the back end, they have complete control over that scheduling. There's going to be a special shift and route scheduler, right? So if that's the kind of business you're in, you can set those up. and we'll support all the different variations there. So if I run a restaurant and I have 20 employees in my restaurant and I need to staff, 3 shifts, then I can figure out, this will help me figure out who should go where based on what vacation they want. And again, this kind of portal thing will allow like employees to say, hey, this is my vacation time, this is my, I can't work on these days or this time because I'm in school, and all that will be integrated into the whole scheduler, right? We'll have alerting, right? So the alerting system, the appointment remindering system can be used for a variety of things, right? So appointment here is a very general term that could mean literally you have a doctor's appointment, or you have an appointment to meet with your attorney, or it could mean you have an appointment for your shift, right? You're supposed to report to your shift, and the terminology will shift. I'm using the word shift a lot, will change based on what the context is, right? So if we're sending, if the person that's configured in the system is an employee, then we'll use different terminology. If it's a customer, then we'll call it an appointment, that sort of thing. So it's kind of an all-in-one scheduling and remindering system that's going to have some, have a really simple rule system, and it'll be scriptable, probably with Lua. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't gotten into the details of this one yet, but and we'll have some basic reporting. We're not going to have super fancy reporting for the MVP because, again, I don't really know what, I have some basic ideas of what people are going to expect. And I think we'll get a lot of feedback there, and we'll just, if, again, it gets traction, then we'll enhance it based on what the feedback is. ChronoVault. So ChronoVault is going to be a goal tracking system and a work log time tracking application that doesn't suck. And this is based on me being in the industry for a long time and using lots of these tools, and they all suck. The goal tracking system is kind of interesting, and I don't have enough time to explain it in this video, but suffice it to say, you'll be able to track, you'll be able to, again, kind of similar to Manage Your Cash, we'll have a little interview process that goes through and asks you some questions to help you kind of flush out what your long-term goals are. And then it will then recurse on each long-term goal and ask you some questions about what those short-term goals should be. And then those are the things that are important to you, right? And I call it ChronoVault, Time Vault, because it's your time, right? This is what you do every day. And yes, there's going to be features in here for you to have proof of work and documentation so you can get paid if you're a freelancer or whatever. But really the primary goal of ChronoVault is going to be to help you reach your goals, right? And every day the system's going to be designed to take you through a short process that kind of reinforces where you're at. Are you accomplishing your goals? Are you getting stuff done? Or are you continuously punting things from day to day to day? So there will be like a task list thing here in this system at the lower level of the goal tracking. And some of those tasks might be do work for a client, and then you do time tracking, and we'll have a work log time tracking thing. And the work log, I'm using the term work log because I think that applies both to if I'm tracking for a client or I'm tracking for myself, but also I view the work log more as almost kind of a work diary, right? These are the things I did today, and in what way do those tie into my goals, right? And this is not cheesy, corporate 360 peer review, whatever they call it nowadays, goal shit, right? This is not coming from your boss. Hey, Mr. lowly programmer, my goal for you is that you have to, work 90 hours a week for the rest of the year, and if you don't do that, you're fired. Yeah, no, that's not what we're talking about here. These are intrinsic goals. These are things that are important to you, right? And you define all that. And you'll be able to, I think it'll be a good feature set to also support the ability to add like clients, customers, or other people that you want to be able to do approvals, right? So if you are tracking your time and building a work log specifically for somebody to review so you can get paid, we'll have the ability for you to add them in as child accounts to your account, and we'll have a small workflow configuration of some kind, right? Where you can say, okay, if this person's not available, it should go here, or this person has to approve it, then that person, then this person, right? And believe me, that happens. And there, one last part of this is, I'm thinking that, and this is like an opt-in feature for folks. They don't have to do this, but if they want to like have a much more ironclad documentation for work that they do, like when I do contracting work for folks or freelance work, I typically record myself doing it, right? And then I upload the video to something like Dropbox, and I make that link available to clients when I submit my invoice, and that's my proof, right? So if I ever end up in a legal dispute and end up in court, well, you know, if I have a set of videos that accumulates to, you know, 40 hours and my invoice says 40 hours, you know, as long as I'm not playing video games, unless I'm making video games, as long as I'm not, you know, obviously not working on the video, most judges in the United States, and I'm sure this would be true for most of the world, they're going to side with you, right? They're going to say, hey, look, obviously this guy was working. He was doing stuff for your project, you know. So I want to give people the option to be able to collect that in a more structured and meaningful way, and also in a way that it will integrate, right, with this time tracking work log. And so I'm thinking this desktop application will be pretty simple. It'll have the ability to do video recording or video snapshotting, so you can choose, right? Like take a picture every minute, and then you'll just kind of get a bunch of discontiguous pictures, or, you know, take a regular video stream, and also, you know, maybe we'll track what processes, you know, what applications are running, and then you can kind of I'm an accountant, so if QuickBooks is open and FreshBooks is open and, you know, Peachtree, I don't even know if Peachtree exists anymore, is open, then obviously I'm doing my thing, right? And so on and so forth. And maybe we'll do not key logging, so don't freak out, but just, yes, this user's engaged on the system, they're typing, they're using the mouse, they're changing focus on applications, and this is 100% in the user's control. We are not going to dictate how any of this data gets used, right? This is entirely up to them. They can edit the data, they can cut out data they don't want to send. This is just an extra feature that's kind of integrated into the system, so that if you're doing freelance or contracting work, you don't really have to think about it, right? You just have this app on, you say, hey, I'm working now, and then you pick your client and you pick, you know, the project or whatever, and it just starts recording, and we'll have like a little window maybe that will be very easily accessible from the operating system. So if you want to start making notes in your work log, right, we're going to make adding stuff to your work log really simple. Hey, I implemented this feature, I moved these files, I renamed this, and it'll just, you know, stream of consciousness, it'll end up in your work log, and then you can go into the Chronoval application later on the web, and you can, you know, curate that data before you submit it. Okay, final one, Boothby. What's Boothby? So Boothby is going to be a service where you can create an account and you can create environment templates for cloud environments. So you can drag and drop different components, right? So let's say that I have these applications that I'm talking about here, and for a development environment, I need a virtual machine for the web server, and I need a virtual machine for the database server, and I need a virtual machine for, or I'm saying virtual machine, let's change it up. Let's say I'm primarily like an AWS shop, or maybe I'm an AWS Azure mixture. And so I would like to use the database service, right, on AWS. So I want to provision a database, and I want to make it Postgres, and I want to configure it this way, and I want to provision, a virtual network on AWS, and I want to put these things inside of it. And then in Azure, within the same overall environment, I want to provision web applications in Azure because those are my front end. But those also need to hit a load balancer on the AWS side. So you can drag these different components, right? Whatever platform as a service, or if they're just virtual machines, whatever they happen to be. And I'm thinking, AWS, Azure, Linode, and if there's another one, maybe DigitalOcean, although some of those start to get a little bit, if you will see exactly, but definitely AWS, Azure, Linode. And the idea is you can combine all these into one environment template. It can be data driven. And then once you have that template set up, you can put parameters around it, and will also help you do some on-the-fly costing, right? So as you build your template, we'll have a big database that we kind of keep track of that says, hey, this is roughly what this is going to cost per hour, right? And then, we're going to show you right there as you're building it, hey, this dev environment is going to cost you, $2 an hour, right? And then you'll be able to set constraints around it. Okay, this environment can run from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Thursday. It can run outside of those hours with manager approval. Here are the approvers, right? And and then members of your team can come in to a different side of the tool, right? So what I just talked about was like the admin side of the tool. The user side of the tool is a dashboard with the environments that you have stood up, and they can pick a template, for an environment. Say, hey, provision that for me. I need my own dev environment today. And then the tool will go out. It will create an execution plan for all the different cloud environments, and it will go and build up the environment, right? And when it's all stood up, it'll show up in the dashboard, and everything will be templatized in the sense that you'll be able to, when you set up your environment and provision it, you'll give it a name, you'll give it other attributes that you need, and like URLs and all that stuff will get generated dynamically in your DNS, however you have that. So if you have Route 53, or you have DNS set up with Microsoft and Azure through Active Directory, whatever you're using, right, we can customize all those things so that when this thing is finally provisioned, in the dashboard, you'll just see URLs for all the different components that are important, and that'll all be configurable by the admin within the template. And then, we'll start tracking timers on it, right? So how long has it been up? How much money is it costing? And the costing is going to be approximate, right? It's not exact. It's the idea is to get within a certain, air range so that we can control how long the environment's up. And then, say I provision the dev environment to do some isolated testing, and I use that for a day, and then because I created it, I just go deprovision it, and then the tool will go out and it will, remove all those resources in the proper order from the various cloud environments. And when it's deprovisioned, it will disappear from the database, or from the dashboard, but we'll keep a history of what was provisioned, by whom, how long did it run, what did it approximately cost, all that good stuff. Also, I think what we'll have is a very simplistic deployment control agent of our own. And again, this will be like user opt-in. If they choose to use this, right, they can create images in their cloud environments, and they can include our agent. Like, so say you use Windows, or say you use Ubuntu or whatever, or you use Red Hat, you can take those images like in AWS, you can make your AMI, and you can install our agent in that. And so then when you provision things, you use your customized AMI that has our stuff in it. And maybe we'll see if we have time, maybe we'll offer, we'll take standard AMIs that are out there and whatever the equivalent is in Azure. Linode, yeah, and Linode has something similar. And we'll customize the images that has our agent in it. And then our agent obviously then just can talk to the Booth B servers, and then you can create, kind of DevOps type scripts and things that you can push to different parts of the system, right? And we'll have some basic reporting here. But again, the reporting is going to be pretty minimal, and we'll adjust as we go along. So I got to check my time here. Okay, so I'm going to try to get through the rest of this here. So why am I streaming this? So my streams, I stream every day from 5 a.m. Well, I stream Monday through Saturday, 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I don't plan my streams, I don't plan my programming time around my streams. My streams are whatever it is I'm working on. That might be difficult to believe, but that's the case. Will this be open source free software? I never say never, but I don't think it's going to be open source or free software. However, I am willing to make the code available for a nominal fee. The fee would be the code for all of these, all 4 of these. When they're done, you pay the fee, you gain access to the code. There'll be a custom license agreement. And I don't know all the details on this yet, but the gist is, you can use the code for whatever you want. However, you can't compete with me for some period of time, let's say 24 months or something. And you cannot relicense the code, meaning you can't just take the code from the Git repository that you gain access to and then immediately go publish it on GitHub, publicly. If you do that, that's a violation of the license. And I'll have more detail about this in coming months. So what's the stack? On the back end, we're going to use Postgres 10. I'm using a migration tool called Piggy. We're using Postgres, which takes a Postgres database, makes it a series of REST endpoints. So that's our API, right? You don't have to write any code other than what's in the database. The security, everything is all managed in, accidentally touched my mouse the wrong way. So security, everything is all Postgres security. We don't have to do anything special. We're going to use Nginx as just a generic web server front-end / reverse proxy for Postgres. We're using RabbitMQ. We're using Rundeck to manage batch jobs. And then we're going to have a series of batch jobs. I call them batch jobs because they're going to be run on a schedule through Rundeck. They are not exposed to the outside world. There is no REST web anything here. So there's no ASP.NET, there's no PHP, there's no Laravel, there's no Symfony, there's no Ruby on Rails, none of that, right? But I am going to write a series of small tools in Bash, C#, C++, and whatever else I might need to use. And for the MVPs of these, we are using Linode. And the intention here is I'm going to have just one really big box on Linode, has enough RAM, enough CPU, enough disk to cover all these. All these applications will be deployed. They'll be partitioned on the server, but they will all be deployed onto the same server. And we'll scale it once we have demonstrable reason to scale it. What's the stack? The front end is TypeScript, Angular 6+, whatever it is. We're going to have a bootstrapped, bootstrap-based template for each of these. I've looked at material. I'm more familiar with Bootstrap. Not that I'm a particularly huge fan of it, but generally we're going to use some kind of template there. We'll use the absolute minimum number of JavaScript libraries necessary to build the front end. We're using Route 53 and S3 and Amazon CDN. There's no server-side anything for these applications. These are SPAs that are served as, there'll be a static HTML page that bootstraps the JavaScript app, and that's it. And that will all be served from the CDN. There's no server-side anything for these apps. If we run into the case where maybe it's obvious we would want some server-side something, then we'll look into that. But right now, I don't see any reason why we need it. And this just vastly simplifies the architecture. And then for the Marcom stuff, and so the landing page and the blog and the marketing stuff, that will all be WordPress. And I'm looking at Bluehost or something like that. And that'll be totally separate, right? Can you really make a SaaS product in 30 days? Wait, it's more like 21 days, 20 days. Yes, I know. People tell me pedantry abounds, right? Everybody loves to tell me I can't do math and I'm missing this or doing that. And I know, I get it, okay? So in a month, 30 days, these are, I will admit, these are marketing terms. And, you know, give me some slack here. I'm only slightly stretching things on some of these. Really the key here is scope, right? I'm going to aggressively manage scope on all these. And some of the subsequent products get a bit more complex because we will already have done a bunch of build out in previous products. So by the time we get to Booth B, a lot of stuff's going to be done, right? We don't have to worry about accounts. We don't have to worry about password resets. We don't have to worry about, you know, emailing, SMS, phone calling. So TFA, all that stuff will all be done, right? We don't have to worry probably about a lot of the infrastructure of how things happen and what, you know, the run deck configuration, all that stuff will have been solved. So we can really just focus on the unique part of that particular app. What does this thing really have to do? And on a lot of these, you know, we'll just end up spending a lot of time building the UI because that's where a lot of the effort will need to go. And these are minimum viable products. These are enough that they're useful, that they hopefully are worth provide value for the amount of money that I'm trying to charge for them. And then we'll see if we get some traction. And if we get traction, then that means we make improvements. And if we make improvements, then that means maybe we eventually need to scale. And then maybe eventually we won't be able to have everything on one server and things will get a bit more complex. But we're not going to make things more complex up front just because Netflix has 5 billion, you know, microservices. We're not going to do it that way. Will you share numbers? So yes, within reason and within the law. So I'm totally cool. I'll show you how many people are signing up for trials, how many people convert to customers. I'll show you in brackets probably like roughly how much money we're getting for each service, right? So I'll say that, you know, Manager Cash is making between $0 and $1,000 a month, right? Or it's making between $1,000 a month and $5,000 a month, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to give you a rough bracket of where things are at. So, and we can put that on a graph so you can kind of see where things are going. And just so you understand, my expectations here are low. If each one of these 4 products was able to gross 100,000 US dollars per year, that would exceed my expectations. So that, just to give you an idea of where I'm at, that would exceed my expectations. Will these be GDPR compliant? It's my intention. I don't have any desire to sell PII for advertising, targeting, analysis, any of that. It's just not worth it, right? If I do decide to do something like that, though it's unlikely, I will explicitly add stuff into the UIs to ask the users for permission to do so. And I just generally have a no douchebag policy. You know, I think it's real douchebaggy, right? That's why I don't have a Facebook account. That's why I don't have any more. That's why, well, I got rid of my LinkedIn account for other reasons, but, you know, in a similar vein, I don't have a LinkedIn account. I don't typically use these services where you are the product for really good reason. Can I help? Yeah, maybe, eventually. Again, if we get traction and these things go where I need them to go and they make money and we need to enhance them, then I probably will have need of some help, right? And I'll have a better signal at that point that it would be worth it for me to invest money in having people help me enhance these things. So that's it. I think that covers what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, how I'm doing it, and should give you enough context so that you can follow along. Thanks a lot.